So guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to why America is terribly designed. And I'm going to guess from the thumbnail, this is probably going to be to do with like how the cities are designed. Again, obviously that's pretty obvious from the title. But I'm kind of confused because I thought US cities, obviously because US cities are a lot newer. And I guess with that they were built with the idea of sort of like more modern things. So like, and obviously the US is so big, the cities are a lot more spread out. I feel like I'll look at pictures and the streets are so wide and like the houses are so sparsely, or the houses or the just whatever it is, the buildings are so sparsely like sort of located. And compared to the UK and compared to my city, it's such a big contrast because here like everything is sort of close together because there's barely any space. But also, what was I saying before that? I was about to talk to someone and I just got sidetracked. About like how the US cities are a lot newer, so they're obviously sort of more they're better for like cars. Like I guess it's better access to driving, better access for driving around in these cities and stuff. And I guess all sort of aspects around that, plus other things that I'm probably not thinking of. But maybe I was wrong, and we're gonna learn about this. I do enjoy these videos a lot. I've done a few similar to these before, and I find them really interesting. I don't know why I like sort of seeing these design sort of videos or these city videos in comparison to the US to the UK, the US to Europe, the UK to Australia, whatever it is. I always find them quite cool to see. So I mean, if you want more of this, suggest it in the comments. I'm a bit ill today. I don't know if I sound it. I feel like I'm alright, but my throat's been hurting. for the reasons that are hopefully not COVID. I think I've just got a cold, to be honest, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So that's, fingers crossed, this is the worst it's going to get, because I'm alright recording at this sort of state. But yeah, links are in the description to my Instagram, my Twitter for those who want to follow me, same for my Patreon. Exclusive reactions are there that get blocked on YouTube. So I mean, that's all I've got to say. Let's just get into this.
This is a map of Philadelphia's parking lot density over a small area. The pink patches represent parking lots, and as you can see, they're all quite large and quite close to each other. Now, Philadelphia has a population of 1.6.
I mean, to be fair, I was saying how US cities are very spread out. This doesn't look spread out. So I guess I'm thinking of certain, maybe more rural cities.
Population of 1.6 million people, but they have 2.2 million parking spaces. So Philadelphia has more car slots than it does human beings, which should sound absolutely ridiculous.
Wait, what? Wait, why? I mean, looking at this picture, god damn. There's a whole like building, like there's a whole parking lot here. There's obviously on the floor there's loads of parking lots. But there's more parking lot spaces than people. That is ridiculous.
Ridiculous to anyone, but if you've never experienced anything else, you might not understand the depth of this problem. So let's compare Philadelphia to a European city, Amsterdam for example. A city that's roughly the same size in population, but with a completely different view on urban planning. Now sure, they do have parking lots, but instead of having an excess of one per person, they instead have one for every 3 people. Although that's not the entire story, because 40% of these parking spaces are actually underground, making room above ground for what is significantly more important: sidewalks and bike lanes. And to understand why they are so important, you only need to use some common sense. See, if you have a car-based city, or country for that matter, with no bike lanes or sidewalks, you are actively excluding those who can't afford to pay thousands of dollars a year on a car from society, since they can't go to and from work or even to the grocery store in a safe, efficient way. And if you add to that terrible public transportation,
Sorry, I am listening, but this is a crazy ass picture. You got the roads here, you got the background. Flipping hell. The mountains in the background. Is this might be stupid as hell. Is this LA? I don't think it will be, but I'm seeing the mountains in the... Nah, it definitely isn't LA. Where is this though? Let me know.
And if you add to that terrible public transportation, it will lead to charts like this, where you can clearly see the most popular mode of transport in America, that just so happens to be the car. Which isn't too surprising, since America is designed for cars, not humans.
I've learned about that
and while
before,
there are some sidewalks and bike lanes in the United States' largest cities, they are either unprotected and really scary to use, or just end abruptly, with no other
Wait, so there's not really as many sidewalks as well? Wait, what?
Option but to use the street itself to walk or bike on, which is really not ideal if you want to send your kids to school on their own, or to get some milk in the store. I mean, I biked everywhere when I was a kid, and it seems like
How
if
do you
you're under
know?
16 in the US and therefore don't have your driver's license yet, you're practically under house arrest until your parents come home. Which doesn't sound that fun to me. And I remember clearly when I visited the United States with my parents a few years back that whenever we tried to walk anywhere,
This is again, I'm pausing a lot. This is a quick question though. So say like in the UK, where I live, I mean I guess it's anywhere in the UK, but where I live specifically, we have like bus routes that go to certain areas on the coast. Because the coast is probably like a 40-minute drive from me, maybe a bit more. But in the bus it's like an hour because buses obviously take longer. But like, and there's like a route. There's a bus that comes every 30 minutes. So say it's like summertime and everyone's trying to get to the beach. There's a bus that will come every 30 minutes to go to that specific beach. And there's buses that go to other beaches on the coast and these different beaches. Same for trains that will come every 30 minutes there and back. Is it the same in the US? So say you've got like a coastal city or a coastal town or just somewhere on the coast where there's a hotspot where people want to go. Will there be bus routes from your city or wherever you are to this area on the coast every sort of hour? Because from what I'm hearing here, obviously the transport isn't great, but do you still get the chances to go to these places without needing to drive yourself? Because obviously if you're younger or if you just haven't got your driving license, like how are you going to get to these places? Or if your parents aren't free to take you or whatever and you want to go out with your friends and just go to the beach. There is the possibility to go to these beaches. This might be a really stupid question, but I do actually want to know that. Like, say you are like living in a city near the coast, but you're not on the coast and you want to get there. Can you just get the bus there? And is it easy to get there and get back? I just wonder. I mean, might be a really stupid question, but
it felt like we were intruding on the car's territory, since we literally had to walk through various parking lots and streets with no sidewalks in sight to get to our destination just a few hundred meters away. And it doesn't have to be this way. See, the streets of Amsterdam, for example, are filled with pedestrians because they have sidewalks that aren't at all scary to use, because you feel separated from the road, and that's because you are separated from the road. The most beautiful thing about Amsterdam, though, is that it's incredibly bike-friendly, as it's filled with designated bike lanes that don't end abruptly, and are instead
they're happening in
carefully
the
laid
UK
out
now.
all over the city, to make it easy for people to commute anywhere. Amsterdam even has no car zones and even underground bike parking spaces that look pretty insane.
Okay, this should be cool, man. Amsterdam is a level above.
Thing
Jeez.
you'd never find in the US. But if you think it's unfair to compare the United States to literally the best city for bikes in the world, then just remember it's practically the same story in all of Europe's largest cities like Copenhagen or Paris. Now sure, they aren't at the same level as Amsterdam, but whenever I bike around Copenhagen, I don't feel like a car is going to hit me, because we have our own designated lanes that are sometimes as wide as the road itself. And you might think, well, the United States will never be able to get to that level, so why even compare them? But the thing is, and this might surprise you, not too long ago, the United States' largest cities were actually designed exactly like these European cities. Take for example Houston, that currently looks like this, with tons of space allocated to these massive parking lots. Seems like it's always been this way, but that's not the case, because in 1920, Houston looked like this, with a lot more space for pedestrians. They could actually walk around the city without fearing for their lives, or feeling like they were intruding on the car's territory. This means the United States didn't design their cities to be this way, they bulldozed them to be. And while European metropolitan areas are increasingly rolling back on the car's dominance with high-speed trains, metros, and non-automotive methods of transit, the United States is increasing their dependence on cars by expanding highways and demolishing houses, apartment complexes, businesses, and schools to fit them. Which doesn't really make any sense. I mean, if a city is expanding their number of highway lanes from 16 to 20, there's a problem. So I've been trying to figure out why they've done this to themselves and what actually happened. And what I found was surprising, to say the least.
I mean, a lot more people drive in the US, and that probably is because of this, but maybe because of that, because so many people drive in the US, and people drive so young there, the government probably see it like, okay, we need to make it more, we need to make it even easier, or just a bit easier for them to drive around without possibly crashing, without getting stuck in traffic jams and stuff, and just that kind of stuff. I mean, it's kind of crazy that they're building more and more, because I feel like the world is going to a less sort of car. There's still going to be cars, people driving cars, probably forever, but it's obviously going to move to like electric cars in the future. But like, it is still sort of maybe it isn't, but I feel like it is that people are driving cars less and less. But maybe not. I mean, the population is just growing and growing, so actually it probably is more and more, but the percentage of people driving is probably dropping slowly. But again, I might be completely wrong, but probably just from my own point of view.
At least. Here, take a look at this. In cities like Charlotte or Portland, Oregon, there's parking lot minimums that are placed in high schools, which is actually a practice adopted by many states and cities. And this means that a high school containing hallways, a cafeteria, an auditorium, offices, restrooms, gyms, and everything in between can be around 5,100 square feet in size, just for the buildings alone. But because of these parking lot minimums, a school of this size must also have a parking lot that's half the size of the entire school. That means 2,005 square feet of space has to be allocated to parking lots and driving aisles alone, which is absolutely insane, as this simply isn't an
My school was huge and our parking area was tiny.
Option in some areas, but since it's preset in many school budgets, it just leads to cramped learning spaces and an emphasis on buying cars to get to and from school. It's essentially a silent message sent to students, teachers, and parents. Buy cars or else. I mean, this would never work in Copenhagen. Not only don't we have space for that, but there's no need. We don't drive our kids to school here. We just give them their backpack and then they either walk or bike to school from the age of 6. Alone, I might add.
6?
That's normal here.
God
But
damn.
going back to the parking lots, it's simply the result of city planners mandating nearly 3 to
I would not let my kids go to school on their own at 6, I'll be honest.
8 parking spaces in city areas per car. A practice that started in the 1930s as cars became more affordable for the average American family. But cars were also decreasing in price in Europe at this time, yet they didn't bulldoze their cities to make room for them. So something strange is happening here, and experts are asking for an end to the massive parking lot requirements because of the valuable space they eat and the uglification of the urban landscape. And I tend to agree that this isn't particularly beautiful. So what about the solutions? What about instead of remodeling entire cities, the United States just implemented better public transport? I mean, in Copenhagen I live right next to both a train station, metro station and bus stop, and therefore I can literally go anywhere in Copenhagen without the need of a car or bike for that matter. So would that be a good idea? Well, currently only 5% of Americans use public transportation, and there's actually a very simple reason for that. It's terrible. This is a map of Chicago's train system. If you look at its design, it's not very hard to figure out what it was built to do. All its different lines intersect here, in Chicago's downtown, and then fan outward. This is a system that's really good at moving people between the suburbs or the outer rings of the city and then downtown, meaning there's a complete lack of routes going from suburb to suburb, making it useless to a lot of people who need those connections for public transport to make sense. Transit systems across the US were built to serve a very specific type of commute, from outside the center of the city to inside it. But studies show that today, the most common American commute is actually from suburb to suburb, routes that public transit in the US usually doesn't serve. And the train routes that do exist aren't exactly desirable. I think it's time to talk about Amtrak. Amtrak has been...
To be fair though, I mean, I feel like where I live now, when I get the bus, you'll always get the bus. Wherever you're going, you'll always get it in the city centre. You can get every bus in the city centre and it will go to different places. And you can get, but I guess maybe the difference is you can get one bus from one side of the city. It'll then go through the city centre, but it'll always go to like the other side of the city. So I mean, I guess that's the big difference. But I guess they're always going to go through the city. But I guess the difference here is it's all directed around the city. You can't go from one place through the city to another place. You just sort of go from one place to the city, the centre of the city. So I guess that is a bit of a difference, but I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a bit confused.
Become somewhat of a plague on the American railway system, with constant train derailment, increased taxpayer funding, expensive tickets, and lack of connectivity. This means most Americans aren't too keen on using trains to get around, even if they technically serve a route they could use. Stations are also far from each other, and major train riding cities like Boston, Washington, and New Jersey haven't gotten an upgrade in years. The system pales in comparison to Switzerland's sophisticated railways that more than 450 million passengers use each year. which by the way is around 13 times as many passengers as Amtrak has per year. And let's not forget, Switzerland only has 8.5 million inhabitants compared to the United States' 330 million, making these numbers absolutely insane. But even with Congress's recent plans to hand $30 billion over to Amtrak for a high-speed train, Amtrak has no plans to use that money for such a system. Instead, they're pouring all of that cash into restoring aging tracks from New York to New York City, repairing an already existing tunnel and expanding Penn Station. Basically meaning, they are going to invest their government funds in what is proven to be profitable and neglect everything else. So maybe the train idea was too far-fetched, but buses should work. The only problem is that someone needs to pay for them, and currently only a quarter of public transit is paid for by ticket sales, meaning 75% is subsidized by the local, state and federal governments, which is truly not ideal. But it simply doesn't make sense to just spend that money on expanding highways instead, as that will only worsen the problem. A fix needs to happen, and the best place to start might be the parking lots. We know the United States has way too many parking lots, so demolishing the unnecessary ones and condensing the cities would allow for more residential and commercial areas to be within walking distance of one another. It would also allow for green spaces that can be used as recreational spots, further improving the quality of life in each city. But obviously that would require the US to remove mandatory parking minimums from state laws, and that would be pretty difficult. But the benefits would be huge, as it would lead to the reduction of housing costs, something that's also a pressing problem in the United States these days. And sure, major cities like Seattle, Austin and Detroit will never be as condensed as Copenhagen or Zurich, but the vast spaces can be used in a sort of hybrid mashup of it.
But I do like how it looks here. This is a really cool picture, by the way. I don't know, I just like views, man, I'm not gonna lie. They're saying that Copenhagen and that look really nice as well.
Interstate connectivity and pedestrian alternatives. The US could also take a page out of Paris's book, as they've been doing radical infrastructure changes over the past 3 decades to accommodate other modes of transport. Paris even has car-free days, where residents are encouraged to explore their city through alternative means. And they have committed to reducing the number of on-street parking spaces by 72% before 2024. But realistically, would the United States ever be able to implement anything like this? And will they ever be able to solve their infrastructure problems? A solution is needed, but what do you think that will end up being?
Oh, it just ended. That is the most sudden end. Is this a new video that they've just posted? Oh, isn't? I thought they just posted a new video. I got excited for a second. But yeah, man, this was interesting, honestly. As a European, I literally cannot comprehend how a city can exist without sidewalks. I mean, yeah, I just thought sidewalks were just a guarantee anywhere you go in any city. They're just going to be there. So that is interesting to see. I thought I was crazy. There was literally no sidewalks. Of course it's on purpose. Okay, now the joke parents explaining how they got to school makes much more sense. Another factor worth considering is that many European cities have a long history of organic growth and development, whereas American cities often only started in the past 2 centuries or so. This means that they grew quicker and often with less foresight. I guess actually, yeah, like maybe like places like LA just boomed. I mean, all US cities boomed. Like I've seen like a video of like New York, how it sort of went from where it was like, as a tiny little town to the city it is now, and it was in such a short space of time where it just went crazy. So I guess with that that does make sense that maybe not everything's going to be perfect. I mean, not any city is perfect, of course, but yeah, I guess that's a possible reason as to why. But yeah, this is a really interesting video. I enjoyed this a lot. Hopefully you did as well. Again, if you want more of these reactions, let me know. And if you actually sort of can give experiences of, if you're from a major US city, of what it's like for someone who can't drive, please let me know, because I mean, the idea of not being able to walk on the sidewalks, I guess this is in certain places. A lot of cities will have sidewalks to most places, I assume, but maybe not, and that is crazy, man. Imagine not being able to like walk on sidewalks from place to place. That baffles me. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below, and yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, peace.